Now, we've looked at functions previously where they didn't get any values and they just did some task. We've looked at functions where we passed in some values and what happened inside the function was different based upon that value. Sometimes what we want, though, is for a function to return a value back to us. And that's what we're going to look at in this case. So the first thing I'm going to do for this example, however, is I'm going to import an external library of Pythons. Random is a collection of functions that we can use that allows us to get pseudo-random numbers. These are not truly random, so we're not going to want to use them for cryptography and things like that. However, for just picking a random number, maybe doing a dice rolling game, something like that, we can use it for that type of stuff. I'm going to define a function that's going to give us a random number based upon some inputs. So let's take a look at what that's going to be real quick. So I'm going to first define our function, def get random, and I'm going to pass it a value. When I want to return a value back to our calling function, we're always going to use the return command. The return is going to send data back to where we came from. Hopefully we have a variable at the other end to capture this data. I'm going to specify random.randint num, comma, and randint's going to take two values, a lower and an upper value. And I'm just going to do the square. So as we go through and pass a larger number, the range in which we can get a number out of this is going to be larger. Now, just for some fun, I'm going to call this function multiple times. The way I'm going to do it is through a loop. So for value, instead of range 10 to 25, I'm going to get an answer. That's going to equal get random, and we're going to pass in value. So here we are passing a value to a function. It's doing some operation for us, and it's returning it. I don't have to write random.randint all this information. All I have to do is call get random. And I can use this throughout my application if I need to, just to kind of further randomize my values. I'll print out the answer. I'm going to save this, switch back to my console, and run functions5.py. You'll notice I have different numbers depending upon what it is. So I can take this and tweak this just a little bit if I wanted to print out what my value was so I can see that. I don't really need to do that. All I need to know is that I've got some random numbers. This is further randomized based upon what value we passed into our function and what value we got out of our function. Now, most languages allow us to return a value from a function. In fact, every language that I know of allows us to do this. Python is a little unique, however. Most programming languages only allow you to return one value from the function. This is the same idea behind a mathematical function, where if you have a mathematical function, you're only going to get one result out of it. However, Python allows you to receive multiple values back from your function. Let's take a quick look at that by creating a new file. So we're going to find a value called getNames. And we're not going to pass any parameters into our function, but we are going to return two values. We're going to have an fname or first name. And lname for the last name. We're going to get both of these. To return this value, you're going to specify return fname, comma, lname. So you see it's very similar to if I'm passing parameters into a function, I have a comma that separates my values. Now to receive this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two variables ready to receive it when I make this function call. First, comma, last is going to be equal to getNames. This way I'm getting two values from my function and being returned into two different variables. Do just a couple of quick print statements just so you can see this information. Save it. Go to my console window. Go run my function 6.py. Please enter your first name. Bob Smith is my last name. And you'll see that it returns first name equals, and I have a variable Bob that's stored inside of it. And in my last variable, I'm storing the name of Smith. So like I said, this is kind of unique to Python, but it does allow you to return multiple variable values from the same function. The rules are the values being returned need to have variables on the back end that's going to receive them. And in both cases, those values and variables need to be separated by commas. Very similar to how you would have done parameters inside of a function.